Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of All Effed Up with me, Will. If you are becoming a regular listener or just liking anything you hear, I appreciate your time, and if anything, I just hope you can relate to my stories and take something from them. And, just know you're not alone. There's tons of people that struggle with all kinds of shit like this, and we're just trying to get a message out there and let people know that, it's not as bad as it seems sometimes. Mental health has become a big deal. There's constant, there's, uh, there's other people talking about, there's more people talking about it now. It's become one of those things where people aren't afraid to talk about it anymore. Before it was kind of taboo, and just in some ways it wasn't considered real or important enough to discuss. And sometimes that's just all we need. We just need someone to listen to what's bothering us and, give us advice and just be there for us. Anyways, we're going to talk about just a little bit of this and that. So let's get into this next episode of All Effed Up with me, Will. I hope everyone is doing well. Especially if you're like me and you're stuck in the fucking Midwest, where we're just trying to get through what's left of the winter, get into the spring and summer months, and finally go outside. I tell myself every year I'm going to go outside and do more, you know, so hopefully I stick by my word this time. I ask myself every winter, why do I stay? Why in God's name do I stay in the Midwest? I can't stand the cold and snow. The only time that, to me anyways, that snow and cold is acceptable is really around Christmas time, and then I'm over it. I want it to be 80 degrees outside, and just being stuck inside all winter, it really sucks. It brings you down. It's dark all the goddamn time, and it's just really the more challenging time of the year for me, as it can be for some other people. Not only this, you when you're older, winter just kind of really doesn't serve a purpose in your life anymore. When you're younger, especially, for me back in the 90s, I mean, they still do them now, but when it snowed enough, you got snow days. So you got these unexpected days off school, whereas today, kids, they might still get those on occasion, but now they got to deal with these fucking e-learning shit, which is kind of stupid and pointless, I guess, but they do what they got to do. And not only that, when you're grown up and it's fucking pouring down snow, sometimes you don't have a choice but driving the shit because you got to go to work or whatever. To sum it all up, I might end up being one of those fucking guys that retires in Florida or somewhere down south. So hopefully that's the case, because I am over it and I'm just to the point where I don't want to deal with it anymore. But anyways, let's get into it. Today, and most days, my son is in my face probably about 6:37 in the morning every fucking morning. And not only that, my daughter, she will fall asleep in her bed, but she feels the need to crawl into my bed at random hours of the night. I don't know why. I've tried to break this habit, but she still just insists on getting into my bed at random hours of the night, because she gives me the lamest excuses too. She says her bed's not soft enough, which might be the case, but I think she's still just kind of full of shit and don't want to sleep by herself. But you know, I it just I think the thing that gets me is when you're younger, and I think it for me anyways. I love my kids and everything, and I know I'll miss it when they get older. Uh, you just miss that when you're younger. You miss lying in bed in the mornings, or you miss sleeping in. Because that's definitely a thing of the past for me. I miss the quiet of the morning where you just kind of lay there. But, when I was younger, that wasn't the case, where you lay there in bed simply because you could not bring yourself to get out of it. The mere idea of getting out of bed and dealing with the day seems completely pointless and trivial to you. You know, um, there were other reasons. Obviously, when I was younger, I did not have anywhere to be. Most days, didn't have any real responsibilities yet. But for the reasons that in my especially my late teens and early 20s, we won't go into it because we've discussed it in previous episodes where I had entered a depression that I had never felt. I had you know come to feel these things that I didn't know I could feel, where I was just completely hopeless and just felt completely lost and didn't know what to do with myself. And it was just a new sense of emptiness on top of all the childhood trauma that I dealt with, and with dealing with all these new feelings of sadness. I think it mostly went unnoticed by my family, mostly because we weren't a big family of sharing things, which obviously that doesn't help anybody. Never wanting to get out of bed, and then it went to never wanting to eat. There's many occasions during that time where I would make a trip to the fridge and leave completely empty-handed, and this happened multiple times a day, and that contributed to my rapid weight loss during this time, and I didn't even realize it was happening. I just remember going to the fridge constantly and leaving with nothing. Because you open it up, you look at the food and everything, just like none of this looks good. I don't even know why I'm here, and it was just the mindset that I had from this depression that I was experiencing. It was some of the darkest times of my life, and I look back at it now and just I'm amazed really that I'm still here, because not only did I have all those feelings, I had thoughts that I'm not proud of, but that's where the previously discussed, that's where all that drinking came into effect, and it was just a way to distract myself from all the stuff that I was feeling. And at that point, I was willing to do anything to distract myself, because just every day was a challenge. And I know that some people might say that it's stupid because it all came down to the root of a heartbreak. Everybody has their heart broken at least once in their life, maybe more. But I think nothing hurts like that first one, where it's a shock to your system. You don't know how to deal with it. So I did what most people do, and it's maybe considered kind of cliche, but I drank every fucking chance that I got, and I did things to distract myself from what I was feeling. There'd be times where I would be hammered in the middle of the week because I didn't care, because obviously, that was kind of the convenience of it too when you're in your early 20s and you're still living at home, where you didn't have to pay certain bills. I had a job and everything. I still took care of my own shit that I had, but I certainly spent more money on drinking than I would like to admit. I often say a lot, if someone could cut me a check for all the money that I spent drinking, going out to the bars, going out and buying trays of shots for people. Some people I didn't even know. It was just, doing anything that I could to distract myself from what I was feeling, partying with strangers and just whatever it took. It didn't matter. I just wanted to not feel that way. And, that was something that progressed for a lot of years. It got worse and worse. And then finally I got to a point, like some people do when they hit their late 20s, I cannot continue to wake up feeling like shit every day. Where my body was just not willing to recover, more or less, like it was when you're younger. And, some people, they can drink like there's no tomorrow, and they can be in their 50s. I remember working with people that were in their 40s, and they would be at work and they would be completely hammered, and I had no idea until someone fucking told me. It's like, wow, that's cool, I guess. But you know, at the same time, it's really kind of sad. But moving on, eventually the drinking had reached its high point and its appeal, where I just simply couldn't do it anymore. Not as much, anyways. So I just, I didn't want to feel. Obviously, I didn't want to feel these things that I was feeling. I didn't want to let people get to me. Didn't want to let people get close. So I began telling myself, if things got too emotional, whatever the situation was, that I didn't care. I just told myself repeatedly, I don't care. And after, a couple years of telling myself this, it really became true. I didn't care. I had more or less flipped this switch in my head where I didn't give a shit about anything because, so many people had shown such disregard for my feelings for, a lot of years. And it just got to a point where, you know what, if people are going to be like this to me, I might as well be like that too. It was just too many years of taking people's shit. And so like I said, I just flipped that switch where, the depression and the anxieties and everything took a different form where I just simply didn't care. I didn't care if I hurt your feelings. I didn't care if, I missed something or I didn't care. That was just as simple as it gets. I didn't care about anything or anyone. And it was all to protect myself. I know that. Now as I've gotten older, it was to shut myself off to everybody so I wouldn't get hurt. But eventually someone came along and changed that. But I kind of told a little bit of that story, I think, in the last episode. But even though I had spent all these years telling myself that I didn't care, and I shut myself off, I shut my emotions off, there have been definitely some long lasting effects, and that was the price I paid. Where when I finally met someone who took my feelings, into their first consideration about everything, and it definitely caused problems there in the beginning, and it's been a lot of work on my end where I have had to learn to slowly tear down the walls that I had built early on in our relationship because of all the crap that I dealt with from other people years prior. Where, even though she was giving me every reason to trust her, I had to basically relearn to trust people. But even today, over a decade into our relationship and what became our marriage, I still have problems caring. Not about her. It's I care completely about her and the children that she's given me, which was a gift that I feel like in some ways I don't deserve, but I think a lot of people go through those feelings too, where the choices that I made in my youth I'm still paying for. I There are the long lasting scars from all those years of telling myself that I didn't care, and it was just a defense mechanism to the different levels of my depression. And to this day, I'm still paying for it. I still have those feelings of depression for many different reasons. I think I always will, but they certainly don't cripple me like they used to, because, how I talked about those days where you didn't want to get out of bed. uh, you know, my wife's not going to let that be an option now. She's going to force me out of bed to get me in a better mood, because obviously laying there crashed out all day is not going to help the situation. It's certainly not going to help your mental health by any means to lay there and continue going over the same, upsetting feelings in your head over and over, because unfortunately, mental health and the things that can come with it, the baggage that can come with it, is a constant battle. It's a constant daily battle where you may have a daily affirmation that you need to get through the day. You may need just to simply get out of bed, or it's it comes down to the little choices, to do these things, to keep pushing forward, to feel better. Don't keep making the same poor choices over and over. It's like I said, it's just a constant battle. You have to keep working on it. You have to keep trying to make progress. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in the same place for, God knows how long. And if you never pull yourself out of these spaces or out of these situations, and you let it slide for too long, that's just more work that you have to do later. It's just more work that you have to do to overcome a situation that you might have overcome in the past, but then you let it come back to haunt you again, and then you're back to overcoming that same thing. And that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to keep having the same battle over and over. I know in some aspects of mental health it can be unavoidable, but there's always going to be certain things that set off your anxiety or trigger an aspect of your depression. But if you can find a treatment that works for you, it can make it a little easier. And I think doing this podcast has become my treatment in a sense, where I can finally air things that I've held on for, in my opinion, for too long. I can finally let them go because they can't continue to hold me back. That's just baggage. And if you don't let go of this baggage, then you can't progress past it. And then here you are, trying to get past the same thing over and over and over, and you're just getting nowhere trying to better yourself. And that's another thing, here I am doing this, taking a risk, trying to better myself because I just believe in my heart of hearts that I'm meant for more. I'm meant to maybe take my experiences and get them out there to where other people can relate, and they can understand that they're not alone in the healing process or the maintenance process of dealing with whatever you're dealing with. And I go day by day. That's really all you can do. I try to do this. I try to make it something. I'm doing all the legwork that I can to push it out there. More or less just rub it in people's faces, say, "Hey, here's my shit. Listen to it." But like I said, that's becoming my treatment. It's becoming my therapy, where I'm trying to let go of things that have held me back. Let go of things that have happened in the past. Let go of certain things that may set off different aspects of whatever problems I may be facing that day. But it's all you can do. All you can do is try, and that's just what I have to do. I have to do these things. I have to try and be a better example for my children, because my daughter, she's 5 years old, and I already kind of see some anxieties in her. She's worried about things at school. She's worried about kids not liking her. I know kids can be vicious. They can be, for sure, especially this day and age where they have to act out or whatever. But I just want to be stronger for her, to let her know that she can come to me with anything that she needs to talk about, because I don't want her going down that same path that I went down, where I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody, and it just got worse and worse as I got older. And you deal with the trials and tribulations of being a teenager and dealing with all the shit that comes with that. I understand that's going to be different for her because she's a girl, and girls have their own shit to go through, but I want her to know that she can talk to me, she can talk to her mother, because chances are, when it comes to the shit that you're going through as a teenager, we have been through it. My wife, even though she was kind of outgoing, she was a cheerleader and stuff all through high school and grade school and college and all that, so she was more outgoing than I was, where I was more reserved. So we offer different viewpoints on what she can, what different advice we can offer her, and that's all we really can wish for as parents is, they are not afraid to come talk to us. I will wish the same for my son, but he's still a little guy. He's not getting a grasp on the world yet, and that's another thing. As a parent, you want to protect them as long as you can. because you don't want them to feel afraid to face the day. That is the absolute last thing that you want. And as my daughter's getting older, I want her to be strong. I want her to absolutely have the leadership qualities that my wife has. My wife is a go-getter for sure. She went through school. She was a straight A student all through school. She went to college, here at our local college. Then she went on and got her 4-year degree. Then she went on and got her master's. And she's just well on her way to, still getting more. And that's just what I want for my kids. Obviously, as a parent, that's what all you can want for your kids, is them to succeed. And just, in my opinion, I want my kids to succeed more than I ever could. You always want to push them down that right path. You want them to understand that even though maybe they grow up kind of privileged, or they grow up with at least a good life, that they deserve better regardless of anything that you could offer them. And that's what I want for my kids. And I don't want them to ever feel the kind of depression that I have dealt with through, starting from when I was just even a kid, being a young teenager, and it progressed being in my later years through junior high and through high school, where you just felt utterly alone and nothing you could do was right, and you just felt like an outsider. And that's just not what I want my kids to experience. On the other hand, you don't want your kids acting like entitled little douches either, but that's just something there's too much of in this world today, where you got kids that just have zero regard for anybody's feelings. I've told my daughter, even though I know she probably doesn't completely understand yet, that if I ever find out you're making someone's life difficult, I'm going to kick your ass, because you don't know someone's story. You don't know what they're going through in their personal life, and there just needs to be more consideration when it comes to things like that, because too many people are just being ridiculed, and just too many kids just make it worse, especially because, you got douchey parents that fucking raise them that way in the first place. But anyways, that's how I feel about that. But I think that's enough for the night, guys. I am going to wrap this up, and I hope you enjoyed this episode, so please share it, get it out there, rub it in people's faces, do what you gotta do. I would really appreciate it, and I hope I catch you next time. This has been All Effed Up with Will.